Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how we restore rosewood without having to strip and repolish the finish. Rosewood's a tricky one to restore, and we thought this was a prime example of how we can show a before and after with these two rosewood chests. This one we've already restored. We've revived the finish using an oil stain, some French polish, or by using a rubber and shellac, French polishing in essence, and wax finishing, and we're going to do the same to this chest of drawers. Now, they are a pair of chest of drawers that have been made at some point, probably during the early 19th century. Originally this would have been a desk. We know this by looking at the construction of the drawers, but for this purpose they look lovely, and they just need a revived finish, and we've got to be very, very careful with rosewood, as I said. You can see they're faded. The colour's lovely, they're just very dry. There's a dryness here to the veneer. It's faded, it's started to move the veneer, so this has been in the sun. These are the auction stickers, they'll just remove those off of it. And I'm going to go through a little process where there's bits of veneer missing as well, especially down here, lower down here on the plinth. So I'm going to replace those missing areas with some rosewood veneer, but old rosewood veneer, and I'll go through that, explain what we're doing there, and go through the process. So this is something maybe for somebody who's a bit more of a keen restorer, or somebody who wants to get into restoration or French polishing. It's our sort of treatment that we've developed here at Gilboys over decades. So I'm sure there are variations of this, but this is something that we have done and developed, and we find it works really well on rosewood and lots of other woods, not just rosewood, it can be other timbers. So let me show you what we do and how we go about it. So as I said a minute ago, I need to do the repairs first, and you always do that with restoration. Before you do any polishing work, we've got to go start the repairs first and get them all done. So as when you're doing the French polishing, the repairs get blended in. So I've gone into our cupboard and looked and found our rosewood veneers. Now these are all old veneers that we've taken off of pieces of furniture that are going to be ditched, and been collected over years, decades. So I've been having a little rummage around in here trying to find a suitable rosewood veneer that will suit our piece, and I think I've got a number here. So they've got a finish, they're already faded. You can see these are thick cut veneers, rosewood. You can see how black rosewood is, see how dark it is. That's never seen the light of day. That's how it originally would have been, very, very dark. It's part of the ebony family. This is lovely and faded. It's got a polished finish on it. So all I need to do is mark out the size of the piece of veneer that I want to cut and replace where these missing pieces are. So that's the first thing I do. I'm going to cut the veneer first, then I'm going to place that cut veneer up to the face of where I'm going to replace, mark around it, chisel out, and then infill the piece of veneer. Now it's slightly lighter, which is just what I want, because then I can then colour ever so lightly, a little bit of tone, a bit of French polishing technique using pigment powders and spirit colours, just to pull the colour through and make that disappear. So that's what we're going to do next. Right, okay, so here we have our piece of veneer, a rosewood veneer. I've had to don some glasses. It's an age thing. I never used to wear glasses, but now I've discovered that glasses, I can see. So I'm just going to cramp, put the veneer down, nice and hard to the table. I'm going to use this cloth here to stop the veneer when it pings away, not flying across the floor. As you can see, I'll leave it open a bit there so you can see. an extremely sharp chisel, and one thing I need, I'll just go over here, is a hammer. Another way of doing these veneer repairs is by using tracing paper, and you can trace over the piece of veneer you want to the exact size and then copy that tracing to the piece of veneer. But for this purpose I'm just going to use a rough pencil guide. There you go. Split away there. We'll keep that piece of veneer. I'm just going to clamp that down nice and tight there again. Okay. Whoa! It did fly away. No, it didn't. There it is. So there we have our piece of rosewood, which I'm now going to offer up over the area. We'll pencil around it, chisel it out, and then repair it with this piece. Okay, so here we have that little bit of rosewood veneer. I'm going to offer it up to the area I want to repair. Could use a little bit of blue tack, and I'm just over the face of it there, and I'm going to mark with the pencil around the outside of where I want to repair. So it should follow the outline of what I've just cut. You could also cut this veneer to a point, to an angle, so it's not got sort of 90-degree angles on it, but I don't want to cut into the rosewood here, and plus I'm really quite good at colouring so I can make this little piece of rosewood virtually disappear without going into the rosewood here any further than necessary, so you won't be able to see it. So let's do that next. So I just okay. I can see that, okay. Right. Right, for me to chisel out carefully this area here to fill that veneer in, I need to clamp this piece down. I don't want it moving around. So I'm just going to take the core out, put that over there, bring it forward. Right there. There we go. So now the piece I'm working on can't move. And that's the only thing to do is move. And again, I think I might get a rubber mallet. Just bear with me. A bit softer. So I can just about see my pencil line there. Okay, so I've chased out a line, an outline there, so now I can pare away this rosewood, hopefully, to around about that same size. as my infill. Anything, any other little small misdemeanors, I can fill with a tiny bit of wax. So let's see if I can get into carrying it away a little bit here. So while I was just carrying out that little repair, I noticed there was quite a distinctive piece of grain, a very dark line there of grain going right the way through, which was sort of missing off that piece I selected, but I just found it on another piece out of that same bag that, look, when I offer it up there, it's almost exactly the right colour, but it also has that dark grain going through it. So I'm going to cut this piece and put it in here and pull that grain through there. So I'm just going to mirror that same piece that I cut for there, put it over the top. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. Right, so here's our second piece of veneer, because it's got a nice bit of grain going down through it. I'm just going to slide it in just at that right point. Look at that. So this bit here where it's oversized off of the edge, I can trim that once it's in. So once the piece of veneer is glued in place, it's been left, I can just trim that edge down to it nice and smooth so it blends into that mitre edge there. But as you can see, there might be a tiny little bit of wax maybe needed just around the edge here, but by the time I grain and colour that through, that's gone, and that's using a period piece of rosewood from old furniture, so a correct repair. So we're using our traditional glue, that's all we use in this workshop, hot melt animal glue. Just going to move that around a little bit. There. There we go. We use this glue because it's reversible. If you use a contact adhesive or a super glue or anything else, you're going to have one go at this and it's stuck, and then you're in trouble. Whereas I can reverse this glue with a little bit of warm water or steam behind it, and it'll lift that veneer off. But it works beautifully as a contact adhesive. There. There's a bit of gap there. Oh, that's it. It's just nice and tight. So I pushed it in tight. Okay, so I've completed the veneer repairs. You can see them here and on the draw face here. In fact, I think this one here Archie did here, and he found actually the veneer fitted exactly into the right place where the veneer was missing, so there was no need to sort of cut anything away extra. It was a perfect fit. I've just noticed before we carry on with any more of the restoration work here, or the reviving work here, that this lipping here is loose. You can see this piece here. This is very, very common. You'll get this. It's like a bullnose lip here in rosewood, but I need to get some glue under there. And I'm just going to gently wobble that off. I think it'll stay there. So if I can get, what I want to do is see, I can get some glue underneath there. I'm going to use our Scotch glue again, or hot melt glue. I'll just go get it. Warming over here. Okay. Again, I think we're going to use this kebab skewer. Just going to dribble some glue in behind. It acts as a contact adhesive. It's brilliant stuff, this animal glue. And I'm just going to, there we go, I can see it squeezing out the top there, look at that. If there is any excess glue left over, it will just shell off. When it's dry, it will just flake off like a dry skin, I suppose, almost. But, yeah, perfect. Right, I think we're there. I think we've got everything glued down that needs to be glued down. So we'll now start the reviving of the polish of the finish. So, okay, so now we've done all the repairs, we're going to do the oil stain revive, which is the first part of reviving this rosewood finish. For this purpose, I'm going to use some of our soft wire wool, which we use in the workshop all the time. You can buy it on our website. Some oil stain. This is a white spirit based oil stain. It's a mix, I think, of brown mahogany and oak. Maybe a couple of others in there. I can't remember what my little mix is there, but that's a little oil stain which we're going to use to revive the piece. Some buffing cloth, and use this brush as well to get into the hard to reach areas. Actually, while I'm talking about that, I'm going to just trim the hairs on this brush. Just so it's not so floppy and splashy, I suppose. I just want to get a bit more of a stubby, so I'm just going to trim the hairs off of it, just a little bit. I don't think I'll make a very good hairdresser. Makes it a little bit more stiff, so I can get into these corners there. Okay. Right, let's take the drawers out first. Put the drawers in.
pedestals out. Put some gloves on. I don't really want oil stain all over my hands. These are ordinary washing up gloves, rubber washing up gloves. So, this wire is so soft, you tear it in your hand. It's like cotton wool. I'm going to start. I'm just going to charge the wire wool. Tip it back a bit. I'm putting quite a bit of pressure onto the wire wool because it wants to clean the surface. I'm going to refresh that finish that's underneath, that French polish that was there, right finish. The stain's going to get into the polish, just revive it. It's not going to look this dark. It looks quite, like it's quite horrendous at this moment in time. Sorry, horseflies decided to eat me. There we go, so I'll just scrub that into there. And then with our soft cloth, again you can buy this online. I'm going to remove the excess oil stain. And look at that. There's that lovely rosewood, all refreshed. The colour of that rosewood coming through. The oil stains clean back the finish. Just put an extra little bit of colour into there, and you've got that lovely rich colour which all antique dealers and antique enthusiasts would love. And I haven't removed the finish. I've not done any damage to the original finish there. We've just used our oil stain. So I'm going to continue with that. I'm going to use the brush this time and work it into the moulding here that you've got here. This quarter round bead. I want to get the oil stain into those areas where there was dust and muck and dirt. And the great thing with it being an oil stain is you've got quite a long open time with it. And by open time, I mean it's not going to evaporate and stain and mark. You haven't got to really panic and rush with it, thinking it's going to leave stain marks all over the furniture. Being an oil stain, it takes a long time to dry. I'll work that brush into there actually. The wire wool again. Into find that bottom of the column there, the mouldings. So this oil stain, you can buy it probably, and most hardware stores will have a good quality oil stain. So I'm going to go over this whole piece just like that, over the entire chest and the drawers, and then we'll put it back together to see what it looks like, and then we'll go to the next stage of reviving the finish on this piece of furniture.
Right, so we've done the oil stain revive. We've gone over the entire piece with the wire wool and the oil stain, cleaned it off. You can see now how it's enriched the colour of the rosewood. We haven't done the drawer faces. These drawer faces here, I started looking at them and we think actually the colour of those drawer faces are perfect. There's no reason for me to do anything with them, so we'll put a rubber over the face of them just to revive the polish and pull that lovely colour that's there back into onto the piece. So let's start with a rubber. Now I'm just going to put a few passes of the rubber over the face of the piece, and here's a rubber from the pot. There we are, the wadding inside. I'm just going to charge it. I'm going to charge it with a bit of methylated spirits or denatured alcohol, as it would be in the US. Special pale polish here. We buy ours already mixed so we don't cut it ourselves. And this is a small rubber. I'm just going to put a tiny bit over the face of it. It's a bit sticky. Just trying to get the point. There. See that point I've created with the rubber? I need this point because I want to get in the corners of the piece. If you don't make a rubber with a point, then how are you going to get in the corners? There we are. I'm just going to squeeze out that mix of polish onto this onion board. There we go. So I've got a small little rubber there. It's a nice pear shape rubber. Not one of these round things. They're no good. And what I'll do is I'll start possibly on this, on the side here. I'm just going to ignore the fact that the grain is going this way on this top part, because this will actually be part of where the desk was, which originally what this piece of furniture was. It was a desk. I'm applying very, very little pressure. There was a lot of polish. I've just charged my rubber. So very gently I'm applying this polish. Lovely, smooth, continuous movement. Very little pressure. I'm just going to do that across the top there. Having said that, it feels natural. Just going to, if I can, tip the piece up a bit. That's it. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to it. Again, very, very little pressure. I've got a nicely charged rubber. Nice fluid movement with it. These detailed areas where this carved floral patera is here, we can do with a small brush. You can get into the relief areas with a very small pencil brush. That would just be a matter of seconds to do that. Notice how I'm not working on one area continuously. I'm not trying to build up a huge layer of French polish here. I'm just reviving the existing finish where that oil stain revivers. Look how it lifts it. This is a very thin film of polish going onto here. And after this process is over, we will wax finish it with our rose gold polish, Gilboys rose gold, which will give you that lovely smooth antique finish that will just dull it down a little bit and give you a lovely satin finish. It's just perfect for it. Right, I'm not being too fussy. You can't be too fussy trying to get every angle. Right, let's lift that up. That way you can see that. Let's try a different attack. So I'm going to work the plinth here. If you can see how that polish just allows the light in to, and for you to see that rosewood, which has now been cleaned with the oil stain. Notice how I'm not lifting off either. It's one continuous movement. You can hear it gliding across the surface. It's very, very dry this side. I think this side must have been in the sun for quite some time. It really is sucking in the polish. The difference it makes. Okay, let's spin it round to the side again. You see a bit of the oil stains come off onto the face of the rubber. I can always change that cloth. It's not a problem. It's not a huge rubber. So we've finished all of the rubbering. I've put a few passes of the rubber over the entire piece now. I mean, it's transformed, it's lifted it. And now I'm going to, sorry, the phone put me off. Now I'm going to just colour out that little bits of inlay or veneer repairs that we did here. I've just made up a little bit of a grain colour on the edge of this brush, so I'm just going to pull this grain through a little bit here, and extend that out here just a bit. I don't think there's much to do to that. I think there's not much else. I'm just going to knock the colour off of that a little bit. A bit strong, and I'm going to use that just to tone the veneer repair just down a little bit, so it just blends away. There you go. I think that's enough anyhow. Brilliant. Yeah, that's okay. Excellent. There you are. That was just using some pigment powders, spirit colours that we use all the time in polishing for exactly that reason. Right, I've done the drawers. One thing I was going to say about the drawers. So these drawers have also had a revive of the rubber over the face of them. I didn't take the handles off. The reason for not taking the handles off is because they're glued in. It would mean destroying the handles almost to get them out. And for what purpose? So I've just done one very quick pass over the top with the rubber, and that's another reason for needing the point of the rubber. That point of the rubber allows me to control myself around the face of the drawer. With the round one you can't do that, so with the much more controllable. I don't know if you can see that there. Screen time. So we'll just wax over the finish, over the whole thing now with our rose gold, our Gilboys rose gold, which just adds a little bit more warmth and a nice smooth satin finish to this entire piece, and we're good to go. Oh, one thing I did want to mention was I did see there is a blister of rosewood on the side that I didn't initially notice, and I'm going to cut into that a very, very tiny incision with a scalpel, get some of our hot glue, our Scotch glue, animal glue, get it in behind and squash that down flat. I didn't notice that earlier on, but apart from that I think we're all done. I think it looks fantastic. Hopefully we'll stand them side by side and see what they look like. Right, so here we have the finished pieces. We haven't done a full restoration. We've revived the existing finish and wax polished them to get this. I mean, they look stunning. I don't know what else you could say. If you scrutinise, if you look carefully, yes, you're going to find areas we could have gone further and further, but remember, we're just reviving these pieces. We're not doing a complete restoration. This was clean back, little bits of veneer repair, oil stain, a few passes with the rubber, wax finish with Gilboys rose gold over the whole thing, and look at them, they look like antique pieces of furniture that have just been well cared for and not gone through a complete restoration. We think they look fantastic, and hopefully the customer who I'm going to be delivering them to in a minute is also going to like them.